So Kobus, thank you very much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership. But before we go into leadership, can you share with us, where did you grow up?
Nick, yeah, thank you. I grew up in Cape Town, and I was born in a little town called Pinelands. And Cape Town was a wonderful place to mostly grow up.
So what was your dream career as you grew up?
You know, the funny thing is, Nick, I never had at that young age a dream. I more just wanted to do something that I enjoy. So I didn't want to become a fireman, you know, or financial advisor or an engineer. I just knew that I wanted to do something that I'm passionate about and that I could enjoy. And that really was what it is. So there was no specific dream.
And where did you start your career?
Sure. I started my career in 1984 at a company called Metalbox as an engineering student in Paarl, Cape Town.
And was there a turning point in your career?
Nick, I think there was definitely a couple, but I'll maybe just go because I've got two. I've got a corporate one, and let me talk about that. At age 27, after I was working at a company called Nampak, the CEO at that stage gave me an opportunity to take a non-profit division of their company that for 15 years has not made a profit, to go overseas to study the technology, the engineering side of it, the marketing side of it, and come back and see if I can turn that division back into a profit company. Now that's a great opportunity for a 27-year-old. And I went over, I came back, and I implemented the plan. And within 18 months, we turned that company around. And that was an opportunity that just put me out there, and I became known as the change agent. And I became known as somebody that can go in anywhere and make something that's not working work. And over many years since then, I was sent to the worst factories, the worst plants, the worst divisions to change them around.
So that was the first turning point in your career. You mentioned two.
Yes, the second one came much later. After climbing upwards and doing different jobs at different companies, and I came up to a stage where I really felt I'm not getting out of life what I wanted to get out of life. I woke up one morning and I just thought things are not working out. Although I'm successful, although everything was working out in the sense of finances and money and career, in the sense of what I've achieved, I didn't feel I'm doing enough. And I felt I was looking after shareholders' interests and not stakeholders' interests. And at that stage, at I think age 37, I decided to review my life, my career, and I then looked at something new. And that changed my life forward, where I could find something where I can look after shareholders' interests, not so much as stakeholders' interests, because the stakeholders' interests become so much more important. And if you look after stakeholders' interests, shareholders' interests follow in any case. And I would say that was by far my biggest career move up to date.
Now your first book is titled Passion for the Profession, so I guess it's not difficult for you to answer what is driving you today.
Today, absolutely, I feel I'm driven by making a change in people's life while changing my own life. And therefore, it comes with understanding the why. It's so important to understand why. Not the what, the why. It's more important to then understand that if you understand the why, can you link that to a great purpose and a great passion? Can you combine that? And I am driven, every day I wake up, I'm driven by one thing. Have I changed somebody's life while changing my life, my family's life, and in this case, while changing a profession's life, if I can call it that, and therefore driving And the way you're driven is the way you define your destiny, your why, your passion, your purpose, and how you keep persisting at those things every day you wake up. And when you go and sleep in the night, ask yourself, have I taken 24 hours out of this day? Because if I don't wake up tomorrow morning, do I leave a legacy?
Now, Kobus, let's talk about leadership. What does the future of leadership mean to you?
It's a question that's a wide question, Nick. So I want to cover this in two stages. Because the future of leadership cannot be defined if you don't know the past of leadership. And leadership is an important concept to understand that we need to appreciate. So the first thing is, the people in industry, in companies, are not always leaders, they're managers. And why are they managers, although they think they're leaders? Because they have a title, a job title, because they have authority. But having authority does not make certain that people will follow you. People listen to you, people do what you tell them, but are they actually following you? So I call that the old norm. The old norm is leadership was perceived as somebody in charge of somebody else. But that is a fallacy. It cannot work long term. Again, it will look after shareholders' interests and not stakeholders' interests. Now, we have the odd massive leader like a Nelson Mandela and many other people out there that has become icons. And leaders like that are leaders because people follow them. So the new norm is the future of leaders is how do you become a leader that people want to follow? But not only a leader in a company, a leader in an infrastructure, in an entity. Actually, how do you become a leader of leaders? How do you become a leader in an industry, in a profession? Because that's leadership as well. There's different formats of leadership. And if you understand that the two plays a massive role in differentiating managers versus leaders. So if we then understand the new norm, and the new norm means the future leadership involves a lot of things. The new norm means that if you're not an entrepreneurial type of leader, in not only our country, but in emerging countries in the world, how are you going to lead people, or how is people going to follow you if you don't have that entrepreneurial skills? Where you can differentiate leadership, where you can make use of technology to be a future leader, where you can make use of social media to disrupt, to understand how to disrupt, but also to take care when people want to do the opposite to you. It is about having compassion. So the future leader better show much more empathy and compassion than the old leadership. It is about being a servant out there. So future leaders has to be servants to their followers. And their followers will follow them with all the pride and all the commitment. And things will happen more automatically than driven by fear. It is being a mentor. Very important that leaders understand that it comes with coaching, with mentorship of their followers. And not only their followers that directly or indirectly report to them, but leadership, for instance, that's out there, thought leadership, people that people look up to, people that industries look up to, people that profession looks up to, they are leaders as well. And people are following them. And what are you doing to mentor and coach that type of people that follow you? I've mentioned it, but it's important that I mention it again. It is about stakeholders' interests. So are future leaders looking after stakeholders' interests, or are they looking after shareholders' interests? Are they being social responsible as stakeholder leadership? And I think people miss that concept. And I can't make it more clearer than referring to stakeholders' interests versus shareholders' interests. It comes with the ethical side. And ethical leadership is very crucial. What are people doing to make sure that while they're looking after both shareholders and stakeholders' interests, that's done with an ethical concept, that what they do is the right thing for the right time, for the right moment. It is future leadership as being about being uncomfortable, because you're going to have to be a change agent. And you better see the uncomfort coming your way and move out of your comfort position, because that's where future leadership comes. Future leadership is not to have an ego, to be selfless in what you do. And that is across the board. That is future leadership. I refer to future leadership as being iconic. And I want to use that word. Iconic, and I've broken it down, means you must inspire. Means you must be able to communicate, and I'll come back to it now. Means you must be organized. Means you must be noble. Means you must understand interpersonal relationship. And lastly, means you must care. So that's the iconic. If you're not an iconic leader, and it doesn't mean you need to be a legendary leader like a Nelson Mandela. Iconic means people look up to you. It means people respect you. It means people understand your integrity. It means people understand your authentication. It means you are iconic. And that could be in a company, that could be in an entity, it could be in an NPO, it could be in a social organization, or it could be in a profession or in an industry. So to define that, and then I'm going to be finished with this part, inspire. If you are not there inspiring yourself first, because it starts with yourself, you better inspire yourself. And if you can inspire yourself by understanding you and others, you can inspire others by leading by example. Communication. You need to be able to understand clear communication. And that means you have to be consistent in how you do it and what you do. It also means you can't occasionally do it well. You have to do it consistently well. And that communication with your followers becomes crucial. And things like social media makes it so much easier for us these days to have that communication part. Organized. You better be organized. As a leader, you need to understand how to organize, what to organize, and be organized yourself. And you need to organize your followers into the right direction. And both in companies it's so important, but out there in the public space where leaders are growing these days from nowhere because they're leading followers in an industry or in a profession, not necessarily in a company. Noble, I think it's such an important word, especially in financial services profession. You need to be humble. You need to do things really for the right reasons. You need to do it unselfishness. You need to appreciate your followers to the utmost. You need to be noble, and you therefore need to do noble things along the way. Interpersonal. Interpersonal is such an important word, because if you don't understand cultures, if you don't understand relationships, if you don't understand to build them, you ain't going to build relationships with followers. And lastly, care. I think that's very, very obvious. We need to care about our followers. We need to care about our profession. We need to care about our clients. And we need to care about stakeholders in general. But we must not forget to care about ourselves and our family while we're at it. And that to me is future leadership. And I know I've covered a lot, but I wanted you to understand that future leadership is certainly not the old norm. Future leadership is the new norm. And future leadership is who can embrace the fourth industrial revolution, and who can embrace being a change agent, and who can take disruption but give disruption at the same time.
Well, Kobus, this is a very profound definition of future leadership, iconic. And I would like to know, what have you learned from your own journey that you consider most important for building future leaders?
Nick, tough question, because when you do things unselfishness, you don't always note what you're doing. You just do it because you love doing it. But It started with me, and the leadership traits I've learned from it is what I said earlier, the why. Once I knew the why, and 16 years ago, when I had that massive career moment, I had to understand the purpose and the passion. I understood that the learnings is that you need to embrace change. I understood that you need to persevere. You need to be persistent and you need to persevere. Those are all learnings that's put me in good state. I clearly understood you need to be authentic, consistent. You don't need to try to be a leader if you're not a leader. People will read you like a book. If you're trying to be a leader and you're not authentic and consistent about what you want to do, you won't have followers. And if you don't do that with integrity and trust, forget that people will follow you. They will see you through you, they will read you like a book, and they will throw you out on the wayside. It is about being humble. That's such an important learning. It's about having respect for your followers and etc. It's about never playing the man, but always playing the ball. It's about not trying to make other people sound or look worse than what they are, because you don't have to defend what you're doing if you're doing it for the right reasons. It is absolutely about, one of the most important learnings is to give back, to share, long before you want to take. And then one of the biggest learnings is it is about personal branding. It's about putting it out there that there is a reputation, there is a brand for followers to follow. But that comes with people knowing the what, the why. What's the objectives? What's the vision? What's the mission? So the old leadership was always about visions and missions. It's still today. I'm not saying the old leadership doesn't exist anymore, but I'm saying the learnings around it has become much more profound. And it's much more profound around understanding how does personal branding within companies, and not only personal branding, but company brands, how does that put leadership out there where people want to follow a company brand, a personal brand, a leadership brand. And that's a lot of learnings that I've taken from there.
Now, Kobus, when you speak to the next generation, what do you advise them they should focus on for building a future-proof career?
Phew, you're asking tough questions today, Nick. You know, aspiring leaders comes through a lot of things. And one of the things about aspiring leaders is when you want to aspire to be a leader, you better find in your early career a mentorship, a coach. And if I didn't get that coach or that mentor at age 27, when I was given my first opportunity, and when I asked him to help me, I would have never been today where I am. But I want to take this into a different field, because I want to talk about future leadership for aspired leaders. And I thought about this quite a lot. And I don't only want to talk about future leaders and aspiring leaders in South Africa, because it's a global environment out there. And technology and social media are making it a global environment. And leadership are followed globally these days. So I've looked at 5 issues that I think when I look at this. The first thing is global thinking. Aspiring leaders must start thinking globally, holistically, internationally, because otherwise they're not going to make it even in South Africa. The second thing that stands out to me is cross-cultural leadership. And in South Africa even more so, when you've got so many different cultures. But in the UAE or anywhere else where you've got different cultures, leadership must be able to operate within a cross-cultural basis. That's a wide word, but it's an important word. Leadership, and this is actually the most important one I'm going to say, must be tech savvy or technology savvy. Because let me tell you, Nick, out there, technology has taken over. And what took 50 years would now take 5 years in technology because of the enhancement of technology. So aspiring leaders better make sure they are technology savvy. Fourthly, networking. Aspiring leaders must go out there and build alliances and build partnerships and do face-to-face networking, virtual networking, international networking, intercompany networking, intercompetition networking, and I can go on and on. But networking is very important. And lastly, and the most complex one most probably, is shared leadership. You, as a future aspiring leader and a current leader, should not be trying to do this on your own. You should share that responsibility, both with finding leaders that's in your same profession or your same field, and therefore driving awareness out there much faster, or sharing with a younger leader, this typically aspiring leader, and mentoring, coaching those leaders to share future leadership. And I think those 5 items for aspiring leaders is going to be profound. It's going to change leadership because of the global impact, the cultural impact, the technology impact, the networking impact, and shared leadership at the end of the day.
So these are the 5 compass points of almost future-proofing your career.
I would definitely agree with that because it is about a career still. But I also want to make it clear that I don't want to see future leadership or leadership just in a career format, because there's many leaders out there. There's not leaders in a specific company, but it's leaders in a community. That's social responsible leaders. That is professional leaders, industry leaders, and in a profession leadership. That's got followers. It's got nothing to do with direct responsibility. But in a career space, if it's a career person and a career leader, those 5 principles will make sure you stay in leadership and you have followers of note that is following you because of your leadership and not your title.
Well, Kobus, you touched on technology. Now, in your view, which are the technologies that will be driving the leadership of the future? Or let's say, which are the tools of technology that will be driving leadership in future?
Good, Nick. I'm actually glad that you've changed your question, not to only technologies, because it is not only technologies. It is the tools, it is the circumstances that I think is more important. So leadership out there, it was tough in the old days, in the old norms, and it was mostly much more tougher when we didn't have up-to-date technology, internet, Google, applications, and all those things that these days make it much easier for us to be leaders out there and put ourselves out there that people know who's the leaders and what are you doing as leaders. So therefore, there's a couple of things I want to think about. And I mean, I'm going to start with the one that I mostly love the most, and that is social media. The power of social media, Nick, for us out there as aspiring leaders or future leaders and current leaders is incredible. It's amazing. It makes our lives so much easier to get the message over. And therefore, using social media makes a huge change to much quicker build that brand out there, to build that leadership out there, and most important, to build the followers out there. I think smartphones is going to become everything we know. Most probably replace laptops, notebooks, and any other technology. And the future smartphone, and whatever they will call that technology, but something you will keep in your hand, or something that will even be implanted in your body or your brain or wherever, is going to be crucial. Because your life, your employee's life, your followers' life are going to be run by smartphone technology or smart technology. Maybe I should use it, because it doesn't necessarily have to be a phone in the future if we take 10 years from now. I think online communication tools, still the email is still there, but there's many future online communication tools and virtual tools, Skype, internet, those things are going to become the technology or the tools that leaders must use, future leaders must use. Company shareholders, stakeholders, directors must use to communicate quickly and effectively with their followers and their employees, etc. I believe that with the disruptors upon us and coming from all over the place, you need to appreciate that you're going to have to get tools that's going to make you more efficient to deal with disruptors. And unfortunately, most of those tools are going to be electronic, and that's a fact. I think it's important to understand that technology, whatever technology is out there, as part of the fourth industrial revolution, as many people are referring to it, is simply about, are you embracing it? Are you taking it on? Are you absolutely maximizing the efficiency out of that technology that's out there for you to use? And if you therefore are not ready, and it doesn't matter if you're 25, doesn't matter if you are 85, it doesn't matter if you're in generation Y, X, or millennium, or silent, or baby boomers, that generation gap, you have the opportunity, because of technology, now to close that generation gap. We always talk about generation gaps. We always talk about how you can deal with the millenniums and all those things. Well, I believe technology will close that gap, will bring you closer to those guys. And it doesn't matter if you're 65 or 55 or 25 at the end of the day.
Now, Kobus, you mentioned social media, and you are an incredible LinkedIn leader. I've been following your LinkedIn career now for, I think, close to 4 years, and you've built community and thought leadership and fellowship on LinkedIn in ways that I haven't seen by any other leader. Now, when you speak to future leaders, which social media tools do you suggest they should use, they should master, and they should really learn about?
Nick, now you're talking my passion. Obviously, I love social media. And the unfortunate thing about social media, it is, although it's been there for many years, it is still very new. There's still a lot of learnings to be done there. And there's too many people abusing the goodwill of social media, and there's too many people using it wrongly. And therefore, when you ask me what platforms should be used, to me it's not that complicated. It depends on your what, your why, your who, and if you can answer those type of questions. Because it's about your niche market, or it's about your objective. It's about the outcomes you want. So therefore, typically, if you're in sales or in advice, or you're selling something, or you're putting yourself out there, so if your niche market is professionals, is business people, is people with where there is a possible sale and so on, then you need to ask, well, is LinkedIn that platform, or is Facebook that platform? Now, let's take an example of where I'm. If you're a financial advisor, financial planner, or you're in this type of profession, you obviously want to go to LinkedIn. The reason you want to go to LinkedIn is because, is that not where you're going to find your CEOs? Is that not where you're going to find your industry leaders? Is that not where you're going to find wealth? Is that not where you're going to find companies? So if that is is that not where you're going to find professionals that you want to deal with? And therefore, beyond LinkedIn. But if you want to operate in the domestic market, if I can call it that, so you want to know as a financial planner, where's the babies being born, who's got divorced, who's been retrenched, whose friend is going overseas, and so on, you want to be on Facebook. Because there you're going to have a huge first tier and second tier market that you can befriend, and you can sell to that market. So platforms is really important that you define that up front and say, Instagram is going to do so much for me, Twitter is going to be actively, quickly doing so much for me, Facebook is going to do so much for me, LinkedIn is going to do so much for me. But it's about defining your niche market, and not only your niche market, because social media is not always about sales. Social media is about responsibility to share. Social media is about building relationships. Social media is about volunteering. Social media is about a profession or an industry. There's many reasons for social media, and we all don't have the same reasons why we're using social media, but using it for the right platform, for the right audience, for the right connections, for the right reasons, for the right outcomes, that is so crucial. That the people out there, the users out there, that's maybe a better word, the users out there, do not haphazardly try to work on 5 platforms at the same time, because it takes focus, because it takes time, it takes efficiency. I feel that LinkedIn, in most probably 75% of the time, is the platform that most people could utilize. And the reason I'm saying that, over the last, as you say, Nick, although I've been involved with social media since 2005, I actually opened my LinkedIn account, I think, in 2005, if I'm right, I'm not 100% certain. The last 4 or 5 years, and I must admit honestly, the last 2-3 years, and my social media expertise has grown tremendously. And one of the reasons, not because you're doing the interview, Nick, but at the Financial Planning Institute conference in late 2014-15, you were a guest speaker as a social media expert. And it just opened a whole new doorway for me. And that doorway was on thought leadership, was on authority, was on creating a presence, and was on exposing and embracing and enhancing personal branding. And therefore, I want to come back to LinkedIn. I believe, and you talk about future leadership, I want to talk about future social media ship, if I can call it that. I believe, without being arrogant, really being humbly, that I'm finding ways to restructure the use of social media, and specifically LinkedIn. And I believe my LinkedIn has become my CV, has become my webpage, has become my blogging tool, has become my Instagram that says 1,000 words, has become my Twitter. Proportionally have some Facebook in it if you don't abuse it. So therefore, LinkedIn as a platform, if you use it correctly, if you don't abuse it as a professional on LinkedIn, and you scarcely use a portion of an Instagram, a Twitter, etc., etc., you can transform your social media to one platform, interlinked with maybe a Twitter and an Instagram, etc. And I believe that is the future of social media. How do you find the right platform that you can rather incorporate as many as possible instead of trying to work on 5 platforms at the same time? That is my vision.
Now, Kobus, you've been a mentor to many present and future leaders. Can you maybe share with us a success story or 2 where you mentored an aspiring leader, that person took your advice to heart and has achieved significant success?
I believe success comes over a long time, Nick. And I believe mentorship and coaching come over a long time. I never went out there to say I want to mentor, coach people. It came naturally because I felt I wanted to share. But my own continuity succession partner, Mr. Grant Tucker, that's also a financial planner. I took that upon me 6 years ago to mentor and coach Grant. And today I can honestly look back and see success and see a vision that we've put together 6 years and that has come the full circle. And that type of mentorship means a lot. But I want to say to you, Nick, weekly, monthly, yearly, although I mentor on a continuous basis at least 6 people, I mentor many people without me sometimes knowing I mentor people. Why? Social media. Having followers on social media and LinkedIn specifically, I have stopped counting the amount of emails, contacts I get from LinkedIn on people in the financial services industry wanting to know, how can I do this, how can I do this, how can I get my education, how can I do my CFP, how can I become a financial advisor, financial planner, how can I change people's lives. So I feel mentoring doesn't always have to be face to face. There's a lot of virtual mentoring out there. And I believe, as humble as possible as I can say it, young advisors out there are learning from what I and some of my fellow CFPs and fellow advisors are doing on social media and on LinkedIn specifically. So I don't want to mention 3 or 4 or 5 names per se, because I'm certain people out there know exactly where the success is going at this stage.
Now, Kobus, can you share with us who are the role models of leadership that you would suggest future leaders should study and learn from?
You know, again, Nick, obviously you can put names to it. Person I have learned a lot from is Mr. Richard Branson. I followed him on LinkedIn for many years, but I haven't only followed him on LinkedIn, I followed him as a businessman. Elon Musk stands out, obviously. Those are typically names, you know, and there's people that's passed away that stands out, if you look at Apple, etc., etc. But I don't want to focus too much on names, because names come and go. What I want to focus on is, if I was a future leader or want to be an aspiring leader, I would follow people that is noticeable on social media, on media, or in the public. And I would follow people and connect to those people locally and internationally, where I believe I can learn from the most on futuristic leadership. Because as unknown as Elon Musk was a couple of years ago, he's become well known. Just a typical example. With technology changing so quickly, we will have future leadership that could be for 5 years and the guy is gone. But we can have the Bransons that goes through decades and decades and decades, because he has learned how to evolve, how to transform, how to use technology, and how to get his life sorted as a whole person and mix his career with his passions, like I would like to do and have done. So therefore, aspiring leaders must go out there and look around and follow people they believe can change their lives. Not physically, not always face to face, but by following them. Connect to them, use the power of social media, and that will change your life. It's changed my life by following certain leaders that I believe in.
Now, Kobus, where can our listeners connect with you, and how can they follow you?
It's very easy because of social media and because of my presence on social media. So the best is, and I have no problem with any person that wants to follow for the right reasons and maybe want to learn more about social media, technology, leadership, or the financial profession, or any profession. And people like that don't have to follow the formal protocol. They can connect directly to me by sending me an invite, and I will gladly link up to them. If I don't believe it's somebody that suits or fit, I will very nicely tell them that unfortunately we wouldn't be able to connect. So social media is really, and LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter, any of those formats, feel free to connect, and I hope to share with my fellow financial planners, my fellow professionals, my fellow social media people, because I'm not only in one industry or profession I want to see it. There's things that you're passionate about, and I'm passionate about social media, I'm passionate about leadership, and I'm passionate about entrepreneurship, I'm passionate about business, and therefore I cover quite a wide spectrum of leadership, followers, and hopefully unselfish shareness, if I can call it that.
Now, Kobus, last but not least, is there one piece of advice that you would really like to leave for future leaders to take heed of and to implement in their daily lives?
Okay, let me skip the one because I can't say anything in one sentence, as you know, Nick. I want to leave with aspiring leaders, but also current leadership and future leaders, that you need to be authentic. You need to be consistent in what you do. You must not try to be somebody else. You have to use the power of social media. You have to use technology to the utmost. You have to be able to be disrupted, but you have to disrupt yourself as well. You have to do everything you do ethical. The ethics is very important. You have to treat your followers with respect, and they will treat you with respect. You have to understand that people are following you not always because of your position, because of your career, because of your authority. That people are following you because they believe in you, because they see where you're going, they see your vision, they see your mission, they see your objectives to look after stakeholders' interests and shareholders' interests at the same time. And if future leaders or aspiring leaders can take those couple of things I've mentioned now, they will become great leaders at the end of the day.
Well, Kobus, thank you so much for sharing your insights into the future of leadership and giving us some really profound pointers like the iconic model, which I think will go a long way, and the 5 compass points of the future leader or future-proofing your career. And thank you so much for taking the time to think about and articulate so well your views on this important subject.
Thank you, Nick. It's a pleasure always.